I'm recording this one too, just in case you guys are curious, or if you want to dig more into the Grasshopper side than what I can very quickly show you here. This surface right now is being output to all of the definitions. And I could have done this ahead of time and cleaned it up, but I didn't want to worry you too much with Grasshopper operation stuff. But what happens is that thing actually kind of feeds out to every single one of these definitions, and it's kind of a real pain in the butt to manage, right? Because it looks nasty, right? This thing just doesn't look good. So the way that you combat that is copy and paste, and you can actually connect this and create a wireless display. That looks like that, right? So when I click this, you see that it connects back to the original surface, but I can actually move it over to every single one of my clusters and plug that in, and then that wire goes away, right? It helps you maintain a cleaner file. So you know that this surface button, I'll call it a node or component, is your original surface referenced, but you don't need to have the wires everywhere. So you copy and paste, and you just plug it into each one of these. Or if you did it at the start, you wouldn't have to do this afterwards, but it'll help clean things up. And then I can show you how to make it look a little bit better. So let me go through and clean this up, and then I'll explain the rest of it here in just a moment. But I'm going to pause the video. Okay, so just pausing for a moment here. So already, just by making all of the surface wires invisible, it looks a lot cleaner. Okay, so the other thing you can do now that it's a little bit cleaned up is basically just get it to read a little bit better. So it doesn't really matter how you do this, but if these are all really close to the actual cluster, it can actually be easier to read, but you tend to want to have these get really, jam-packed. That part's not easy to manage, but it'll help you follow the data a little bit better. So I'll do that real fast. And I'm just going to do this on the bottom right now. The top side, you would just do the same thing on the top side, but looks like this. That gets pulled back there. Something like that. Oops, that goes there. All right, so let's take a look at the actual data. All right, this is the math that's happening kind of behind the scenes. All right, just so you understand how these depths are actually being calculated. So I'm going to pull this way so that you can really see in the top view and in the side view which ones we're selecting. Okay, that first one, that was this. This was our main cluster, right? That was the first one we created. And that level depth right now, if you hover over that, reads 0. So that 0 refers to the original level of the surface right here. That's this. Does that make sense to you so far? No?
No, I don't even know I'm even there yet. I'm just like trying to figure out what all these things do.
Okay, well I can help you out with that. But stop trying to, for a moment, stop trying to figure out the software and just try to understand the concept with me, okay? So think of these as just, process package, right? It takes a surface, you parameterize it into a size on that surface, and then it spits out basically a surface at the end, okay? That's your poly surface or your form, or beam, whatever you want to call it. So this first depth is a depth, or it starts off at a base plane of 0, and when I give it this layer 1 depth, I give it a negative 3.75. That means it's going 3.75. It's actually feet down. That's a little too thick. I'll talk about those later on. But that's what the D value is. It's the offset distance. So it offsets that surface down almost 4 feet. That's what that is right there. Okay. So from that, and for those of you who are following along on the math side, right? From that, we go to the next one, where we defined the level depth to be the same depth as the first beam that we created. So that's why I plugged in the negative 3.75. Okay? And then we have to define a new depth for that to project down, and that would be this. So I can reduce that to be a really thin plane if I'd like. Following? Okay. Or the plane part doesn't really matter. I was just trying to show you that this is where it starts, and this is where how far it goes in that direction. So if it's negative 0.55, it's going an additional negative 0.55 down. And then the next level here, right? That's what this is. This is our addition. So since we are already negative 3.75 down with the first surface and a further 0.55 down, that plus is giving us a value of negative 4.3. So all I did is I took my first offset and I took my second offset and I added them. And then I plug that value into the next item's level depth. So that's where the next one starts. Okay? And then it's just rinse and repeat after that. Except rather than pulling into my next addition, rather than pulling the number, I have to actually pull the addition because it's cumulative. So it just keeps adding the former addition all the way down. Yeah. Okay, so I'll come around and I'll help you guys out with that. But once you clean it up, I mean, it's really not that hard of a thing. It's just, you know, extrusion depth down, add the next one, add the next one, add the next one. Okay.
Well, I'm copying these things and I'm adding new ones, but it's nothing changes on my.
I'll show you. Well, you also have to change these. That's what these change, like where it actually is. See that?
Right. Yeah, I understand that. But when I create a whole new, I copy and paste a whole new one of those things, it doesn't give me more lines to work with.
If you copy one, it'll appear in the same place. But let me come check yours out, and I'll show you out I'll show you specifically how to do it.